Hi, folks. My name is Seth, and the publisher of a magazine called Smile Politely. And this is Laura Blisle. She's the mom-in-chief of ChambanaMoms.com. Thank you for coming. So we've got here our final Champaign mayoral debate. The format's pretty simple. We're going to ask a particular number of questions, and we're going to randomly draw who goes first. That person will get 2 minutes. Each of the other candidates will get 1 minute to respond, and then write down along the line. Same format each time. Got a number of questions from a number of different people. Not all of them are going to be asked. Some of them will. Some of them came from our creative minds, and other of them came from a really desperate place. Yeah, from Hot Springs, Arkansas. We want to just thank the candidates and everything they've given to their campaigns. It takes a lot of courage to do that. It takes a lot of insanity. So I think that that's worthy of commendation. So a round of applause for them.
We purposely had it here because we wanted to do things a little differently. So that means if you want to go get a drink, go get a drink. There you go. Don't forget to tip the bartender, Seth says. So if you want to check the score of the basketball game, go ahead. But we're going to get started here. So the first question, we're going to start with Deb Finan. We'll have the first response, and then the three other candidates will have opportunity to rebut or give their answers. In this city known for innovation, what's your grand vision for the future of Champaign?
So can you hear me? I apologize. I'm trying to get used to where the mic should be. I was involved in the big broadband project in the city of Champaign. So I was part of the council that actually got it passed initially. We actually had to table it at a meeting and bring it back in order to gather the votes in order to get it done. Broadband, we now have the infrastructure in place. We have the 7 rings around our city and Urbana, but we need to start using it for economic development. And I was part of a trip that went to Chattanooga, and we looked at how it's being used there, how it's being used to drive new businesses and innovation in that community. They have a gigabit competition where they bring in developers to develop apps that can only work on gigabit speed networks. That's something that we have here, and that there are only about 30 cities in the nation that have. So we need to be doing that here in Champaign as well. We need to be encouraging business to come in. We need to be using it more in our schools. It's an educational opportunity, and it's also a huge opportunity for economic development. So when we talk about innovation, pushing broadband, making sure that we get that network down every street in this community and to every business that wants it, and to really recruit businesses, is something that we need to do. And I don't know where I am on time, so I apologize.
30 seconds.
I'm going to let it go at that. Thank you.
No, my turn? Sorry. Yes, it goes. Next is Joe.
Okay, thanks. So, one of the things that I think is really key for us in terms of innovation is just tapping the great resources that we've got in this community. We've got people at the research park, we've got all kinds of good things going on, and expertise at the university. And I think really to innovate, it means welcoming all these people into collaborative conversations about how we can do things really at the top of our game. And that's why I think really, pivotal to that is bringing a lot of people together to have these conversations. The You're Welcome campaign, Laura, that you were involved with is a perfect example of just highlighting some of the really cool things that we can do. And that's a good example of, kind of headed by 3 people that were tapped to do that, and micro-urban videos and other examples. So it's really about, I think, understanding that we have the solutions and we have the leadership within the community to really do that.
Thank you. I'm going to take the first part of my minute and explain why I had to sit up here instead of being out and about in the audience. And that's because I have a pulled hamstring and I cannot get up and down the step, and that is a huge step. So I apologize for not getting out there and meeting and greeting you all. But the innovation that I want to continue to work on is our stormwater issues. They affect so many parts of our city, and our city is getting older by the year. And the stormwater tiles that are beneath our city are failing. And there are so many people who have to, worry about when it rains more than an inch and whether they have to go home and see if their things are ruined or not. So the innovation that I want to see is to continue to improve our neighborhoods, because our neighborhoods are what our city is. We are built on our city, and I want that to continue. Thank you. Would you explain your hand signals? Does that mean stop?
5 seconds.
Yeah,
That's totally my fault. I'll grant you that. We didn't even talk about that. So essentially, yeah, we're going to give you a 30-second warning on the 2-minute and a 15-second warning on the 1-minute. Got it? And then we're going to raise our hand, and that's what that means.
Okay.
Okay.
So do we all get, is it 3 minutes first person, 2 minutes?
No, 2 minutes first person, 1 minute for each person else, and then we'll alert you at 30 seconds left when you have 2 minutes and 15 seconds when you have 1 minute.
Thank you. 4 years ago, if anybody saved as a souvenir the literature I was passing out while running, was one of the reasons why I chose to run for mayor was because my predecessor opposed the UC2B project, and I thought it was a poor reflection on our community to have the face and the leader of the community opposing a broadband project, opposing fiber. Shortly after I was elected, I was graciously invited by the chancellor to participate in a micro-urban transformational leadership conference, from which things like the or You're Welcome, not thanks Gerard, the You're Welcome CU campaign came. It was from that was building upon the whole micro-urban conversation. And it was a fantastic conference of people from all across. And I think that those are the types of things, that we're doing now, branding the community, expanding Research Park. Those are the important things that we need to be focusing on.
Thank you all. Thank you very much. This next one, start with Joe. And it's a 2-part question. What do you think is the role of the city in collaborating with the school district? As mayor, how will you address the perceived disconnect between the 2 entities?
That's a great question. I'm probably gonna have a different view on this than I think the others, because I think one of the keys to our being successful as a community, I see a lot of our operations in silos, and that includes between governmental entities. And I think for us to be an excellent, a great community, I think we've got to change that. So I'm interested in seeing, and as I was chatting with some folks here before the meeting here, I really discussed what we have now is cooperation between a lot of well-meaning people, but I don't think we really do collaboration. And that's what I think we need to do to have this succeed. So you're going to see me very involved and active, working with school board members, trying to find a common solution to some of these challenges. That's going to be whether it's a yes or whether it's a no to the referendum, because this is pivotal to our community. We can't have by far the largest investment in our community from a physical standpoint take place just by one entity. It really affects us all. Of course, at the core of everything is our kids' education, and that in and of itself is enough reason to make sure that we that we're collaborating. But the fact that it's also determines the way that our community grows and what kind of community we're becoming is the second reason that it's absolutely essential. So you're going to see me much more invested in making sure that we're all at the table having this discussion.
I think that the city is already collaborating with the school district in the fact that we have loaned, so to speak, our city planner for the last 2 years, and that city planner has worked with the school district to come up with strategic plans for the future. And I think that I would want to see that continue to grow. I think that as an educator myself, I take a strong interest in what Champaign has to offer as a school district. But what I've been telling people when I've been out and about is the fact that it's not always the school the building that makes a school. It's what's inside that makes the school too. So you do need to have the facilities in order for learning to have the most modern technology, and so that you're not uncomfortable in school, but yet it does take teachers with dedication to make the school what it is.
I could not agree with Joe more, and I could not agree with him more in 2011 when the Champaign City Council, 3 members up here, voted to pass a resolution to have the city planners and the city staff work with the school district and park district to identify a spot for a new school, trying to keep it local, keep central. We passed that resolution in 2012. Our planning department did a TIF study of the country fair site, which was not attractive to the school district. The park district in 2012 said none of the parks would be considered. Absolutely, they were off the table. We looked at Spalding, we looked at Dodds, and 3 years ago, when we could have been having this conversation, we did not. Now, if the referendum fails and we have to start over, I would imagine we'll do the exact same thing, and we'll ask whomever is the new president of the Park District Board to please consider the parks this time so that we can actually have the conversation.
Could you repeat the question?
Certainly.
Thank you.
What do you think is the role of the city in collaborating with the school district? As mayor, how will you address the perceived disconnect between the two entities?
Okay, I don't have much time, so I'll start with the school's placement issue, and I want you to know that I served on the Great Schools Together committee that started in about 2006, and I sat as a council member working with the schools on school issues. I believe that we do need to work together, and we need to all be thinking of the community as a whole. We also have to be respectful that ultimately it's the school board who makes the decisions of what they're going to do with the schools. But we have resources that we can provide, and we certainly should. We need to provide the infrastructure. We need to help them with planning. We may, if it fails, need to help them with a sales pitch the next time around, depending on how things are going. Because we think we all agree that we need new schools. With respect to police, I want to say that we have SROs from the city in the Champaign schools. And I know we're all focused on the referendum right now, but we do cooperate with the schools in other ways. And so it's important that the city keep engaging school board members, that we have a good relationship with them. And am I out of time? Sorry. I even set my own stopwatch and kept on talking. Sorry.
Thank you. We have a quick follow-up question, one-word answer, and we'll start with Joe. Do you support the Unit 4 referendum on the ballot?
Not at this location, no.
One-word answer. Yes or no? Say it. Yes or no?
No.
Yes.
Still undecided.
That's not one word.
Undecided.
Perfect.
Not at this location, no. Thank you.
Scam artist.
I mean, for the folks at home, the location's not part of the referendum. Right? Correct? There's no location?
One-word answer.
You are correct.
Undecided.
All right, we're going to move ahead to our next question. As mayor, how do you plan, or do you plan to address the lack of African American owned businesses in Champaign? And if yes, how? Please elaborate. And sorry, this one goes to Karen in case you lost track.
So addressing the lack of African American businesses, is that
Owned
correct?
businesses, correct.
I would work hard as mayor to get a TIF district passed north of University if that was where an African American business wanted to locate. I think that we've had the last 2 years when we passed a 0.25% sales tax, we wanted to, part of that revenue was to bring in small incubators for minority businesses as well. That is still in the works, and as mayor, I would try to work to get that going a little bit faster so that we can get that going for our minority businesses and African American businesses. I have worked closely with several people, individuals in our town that have concerns, especially along North 4th Street, and I would work with them to continue to see where the city would be able to provide funds or ways that they would be able to begin a business or encourage them to find the ways with the Economic Development Corporation. I believe there's a small business section of that corporation. So I just try to work with them and show them the way, and hopefully the city would be able to provide the funds through the incubator program that we could make that happen for them.
Serving as mayor for the past 4 years, I've laid some of this groundwork, beginning with appointing people of color to boards and commissions. The first African-American man on the library board in the history of Champaign, and the second African-American man on the library board in the history of Champaign. Really, that's what's going to reflect our community. Also, it's huge to have a community-based policing initiative from Chief Cobb. Those are the things to lay the groundwork. We've also, Don Elmore was my appointee for the Planning Commission, and he's done a fantastic job. Don Elmore became the Small Business Incubator director. Ran into him at the store the other day, and he said, with all due respect, Your Honor, I don't know a lot of black business owners. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, I have a really good relationship with the black faith-based religious leaders. How about if we go to some of the churches, some of the organizations, you bring a stack of cards, and we'll say, this is the guy you need to talk to. So we've actually, if I get reelected, I will continue to do what I'm actually doing now.
UC2B was actually groundbreaking because one of the things we did in those contracts is look not only at minority-owned businesses, but the percentage of minority workforce. And we can't really talk about one without the other because frankly, economic development is about putting people to work. And so we need to be finding ways to incorporate into our contracts incentives for people who will hire a minority workforce as well as being minority owned for the business. We have broken up our public works projects into smaller increments so that small businesses and minority owned businesses don't have the higher bonding requirements and can then bid on those projects. We had a street project particularly that we did that for. I would support the TIF. I would also support an emergency fund for small business and minority owned businesses because frankly some of those new startup businesses can't afford a line of credit, and if somebody gets sick that means that they are, their business goes under. And so if we had an emergency fund for them, we would be able to help them get through that hard part and they would be able to continue. Okay, I don't understand the hand signals, so...
When you're 1 minute, that means 15 seconds. If
Okay.
you're 2 minutes, it means 30 seconds.
Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry, I'm not just... It's all my fault.
So I've written down some of these ideas that they aren't my ideas. They're ideas that I've actually teased out of just hundreds of conversations that I've been having throughout the community over the last couple of years on these topics. This is really important, and the reason it's important is unemployment rate in African American community is quite a bit higher than it is in the rest of the community. And one of the ways to address that is to promote and establish more minority businesses because they tend to hire more minorities, and that's really good thing. So I've spoken in detail about this issue with a lot of people that have been involved with it over decades, including my good friend Al Griggs and Tom Moore, and they were involved in an organization called the Community Collaborative for Economic Development that specifically promoted minority business development and was very successful in doing that. That's why one of the key ideas in my discussion and the platform is the Prosperity Commission, and that Prosperity Commission is basically modeled after CCED that has been successful in the past.
Thank you all very much. This next one starts with Mayor Gerard. This is a three-part question. First part being where we want you to elaborate, and the next two, we want you to be honest. Please. Would you support decriminalizing or even legalizing marijuana? And have you ever smoked marijuana? And if the answer is yes, did you ever smoke from a bong?
Yes, yes, yes. How come my 2-minute question is that one? Yes, I have. I did inhale.
Start with the first one. Would you support decriminalizing or legalizing marijuana?
Yes, in fact, when I spoke with the governor recently, he had us, you didn't hear about this because it was behind closed doors with no press, but he had us locked in a room where he told us how things would be. And I mentioned to him, actually, where are we with medical marijuana? Disturbingly, he said, I'm a libertarian, but I'm against marijuana. I think it's bad for families. So, resisting, as I said, to do my impersonation of Inigo Montoya for the Princess Bride and say, I don't think that word means what you think it means. I instead said, well, that's a disappointment. That would be a good revenue source. I have not smoked marijuana in quite some time, but I did when I was a younger man, probably back in the 80s. And I think that I would rather have stoned people than drunk people, if I'm honest. And yeah, I would support that. The mayor, of course, has no control over those things, but yes, I would support it. Yes, I have smoked it, and yes, absolutely from a bong. Me and the mayor of Minneapolis, R.T. Ryback, he talks about he smoked so much marijuana, he thought he turned into a bush.
Thank you.
I thought he'd be getting big laughs on the marijuana question.
It's a character development question. Ms. Fine.
Well, I'm going to start by saying this was supposed to be family friendly and my children are present. So what I will tell you is that with respect to decriminalizing marijuana, I did read the article this week in the News Gazette, and I agree with Sheriff Walsh that smaller amounts, having that not be a criminal prosecution and not have people have felony convictions that then follow them for the rest of their lives makes sense to me. As far as complete legalization, I'm not really sure. I'm being honest. As mayor of Champaign, probably will never be voting on that, and I haven't thought about it in great depth because we've been thinking about city issues mostly. So I hope that's a satisfactory answer.
Joe?
Thank you. I think it's a stupid question.
So in terms of marijuana legalization, decriminalization, I would fully support. I'm not excited about people having major convictions on the record because of small amounts of usage. I think that goes with people for a very long time, and that unfortunately is a real stranglehold on future opportunities. This is not an issue that is going to be determined on by local, mayor or city council. This is a state issue and a federal issue. I would be in a position to make sure that whatever the law of the land is passed by our state legislators, that we follow that. I think that's where I'll leave that question.
This is easy. No, and then support the decriminalization. I'll get to that one third. So the city of Champaign already has a misdemeanor for a small amount of marijuana. So I'm not exactly sure where to divide that line. I read the article as well from Sheriff Walsh, and then you've got the Vermilion County Sheriff. So I would I am supportive of medical marijuana from the reports that I have seen and how it can be helpful to those individuals who need to use it. But as far as legalizing marijuana, I would not be in favor of that.
Thank you. Please let the record state that was Smile Politely's question, not Chambana Moms. And Ms. Finan, sorry if you were offended. Very much so.
May I please note, stupid question or not, you said be honest, and Councilmember Finan, or Councilmember
I'm sure our
Foster and I were both answered all 3 questions.
Thank you for pointing it out, Mr. Mayor.
Could have just not said anything, which is a lie. If I do that.
So I think that we're back at your question, Deb. So we will go to actually a Chambana Moms question, which is, as mayor, what will you do to enhance the family-friendly culture of Champaign?
So, continuing to support the arts, which is something that the city of Champaign has done. We are actively involved in 40 North. We also have a sustainability plan. One of the things that we worked on that we did not have the votes for, but that I would like to see, is the plaza in downtown Champaign. We need to continue to have events and cultural events in our community. There's been talk of a children's museum and an arts center in downtown Champaign. All of those are things that we should be actively pursuing. I know we have a children's museum, but to have it have more emphasis on some of the arts as well, and to be a larger attraction like it is in Indianapolis, is something that people have talked about. I also think that being part of, I'm sorry, this is the 2-minute question, correct?
No hand signal.
Yeah, no hand signal. But being part of a community and being part of having children in this community, we really do need some more availability of things that you can do downtown, and that is not necessarily drinking centered. We have a lot of downtown street fests and things like that. They're great fun, but they aren't necessarily things that you want to bring your kids to. So I would like to see some street fests and more partnerships with the Park District that are really focused on kids' activities and an opportunity to get people out and part of the community in an active way, like you see with the chalk drawing contest during the Friday Night Live. So I think we've got lots of opportunities. Thank you.
So I mentioned earlier that one of the things that I've been doing is just having a lot of conversations with people, and that's where I learn. Because it's not so much what do I want to do to make it more children-friendly and family-friendly, but it's what do we want to do to make our community more like that. And one of the things that I heard over and over again was a children's museum. And we have one, it's wonderful, I appreciate all the hard work that's been done, but I think we can do even more. In particular, I would see this, and kind of the best ideas that I've heard so far are an invention and innovation museum that's focused on things that the university has been a part of developing over time, so that not only highlights and offers an opportunity for kids and families to be drawn from, regionally and across state lines, but also highlights the economic engine of our community, which is the University of Illinois, and innovation, Laura, that you mentioned before. So that's something I really want to offer some leadership to, and if I'm elected mayor, that's one of the first things I'm going to do is form a committee that will specifically go after making that happen. It's not going to happen unless there's some real leadership, I don't think.
I've been a part of Champaign Center Partnership now for 5 years, and we have been working diligently to look at ways that we can make Champaign more family friendly. And I think these ideas that have been brought up so far, they are great ideas, but unfortunately so many of these ideas take a large amount of money. And being on the, or being a part of discussions with the Champaign Children's Museum, it's all private based. They need to have funds. They need to bring more money down to downtown for these families. So it is very important. They'd be great to do. We collaborated with the Park District on the music festivals in the summertime, and sometimes it's been left to Champaign Center Partnership to do those things. So money is a key issue, and I think as part of the city, we need to continue to invest in these things and walk around University, and thank you.
Shout out to MTV over there. There you go.
Thank you very, very much. This one's significantly shorter, all that being said. Sorry about that, Mr. Mayor. Let the record show that was my fault.
No problem. My kid's mom is here, and she can attest to this. Growing up in Champaign, when our kids were little, they're now seniors in high school, but there's a lot of great things to do in Champaign, and I think that we have resources like Chambana Moms to point them out. There's so many things to do for cheap or for free with the university here, with so many activities. I think there's always this idea like, hey, government, make some new things. Well, we did Friday Night Live. It's been a huge success. It's wonderful. But really, when you just look around, there are so many small things going on that are absolutely wonderful, and I think supporting things like Chambana Moms to have a portal and to get out and inform the community of these things and have them supported. There's remarkable things at the Park District, remarkable things at the university, there's a remarkable things at the YMCA. I think there's a lot of opportunities, and as we grow, there will be even more. So I would say, just keep identifying these things, celebrating them, and helping people know about all the great things that are going on.
Thank you very much. This one's a shorter one, as I was saying, and starting with Joe. In the last 5 years, what's the best live performance you've seen in Champaign? Not Urbana, but Champaign.
I think it's going to be Foreigner on Sunday at the Virginia Theater, starting at 7 o'clock.
That's it. In the last 5, the future hasn't happened, Joe.
That's my answer.
That's your answer? Foreigner tonight
That
at the
is.
Virginia?
Tonight, yes. That's a little promo set.
Got it. Miss Foster, the best live performance that you've seen in Champaign in the last 5 years.
Do you want me to be honest, or do you want me to give a plug?
Oh, snap.
Okay, I will be honest, but I have two. The weekend or the Saturday night that I spent behind Coons and for the shows that the Lollapalooza?
Yes, I promote Lollapalooza. That's what we do for a living.
Yes.
Pygmalion, it's called Pygmalion.
Pygmalion, thank you. I'm sorry, I just was.
It's okay.
But
Give
it
me a
was
hard time.
awesome to have the 2-stage venues and the music bands. I thought that as a person of my age, it might be, maybe not as entertaining to me, but it was awesome. All of the bands were so much fun that night, so there were a variety, and I really did enjoy that, and I love the venue. The other one is, I have to give a plug to Candy Foster.
Particular show or just any of the number of shows?
Just every show that I attend with Candy Foster is fun.
Let the record state that Miss Foster actually was at the Death Heaven show at Pygmalion Festival. So you can Google Death Heaven, and I really appreciate that you like that. That's awesome. Yeah. Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
Let's see. Lyle Lovett show was fantastic. Can I have a few more? I have time. I can talk. Allison
number
Krauss.
one show, the best show?
No, I thought it was 3. Top 3.
It wasn't 3, it's one show.
Good Lord. Maybe the Alison Krauss show, because just the fact that it was fantastic, that she's won more Grammys than God. I mean, the woman's amazing. And we're naming a street after her, and the concert the proceeds went back to local charities, which was just amazing. That being said, Major Lazer was like one of the earth-shattering experiences for me. Certainly there's, and if I'm honest, I declared a proclamation for Rock and Roll Barbecue Day and saw Resonator or something playing in somebody's basement on a hot, sticky summer. That was actually pretty darn fun, a bunch of kids having fun. But I would have to say my answer would be Allison Krause, just because the nature of the concert was so incredibly special. As a Champaign Central alum, having attended there, and her talking about the music in our public school programs being so integral to her life, and I thought that was a wonderful thing.
Thank you. Ms. Feynman.
I had Lyle Lovett on the list I would have on my, I just can't remember if I saw the most recent show. I've seen him multiple times and he's been at the Virginia more than once. So whether that was within the last 5 years, I'm not sure.
It was.
Okay, that's fine. And I don't get out much because I've got a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old, but I did have a lot of fun at the record party for Cody and the Gateway Drug, so I'll give a plug to them. I actually got to go and it was a blast.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
All right, we're gonna turn to something a little more serious that affects a broad swath of our community, and this is to Karen. Significant budget cuts to the University of Illinois, as well as other state-run entities in our community, are likely considering the climate in Springfield. As mayor, how will you respond, and what do you see as potential opportunities for the city of Champaign, and how would you address potential negative impact?
Well, we just went through this. Since 2008, we had to deal with several budget cuts, and the city dealt with that by asking each department how they would prioritize what cuts they would need to take in each department. So they used each department's expertise so that they could not just take a broad pin to the whole city, but they would ask them. And so we had to do steps 1, 2, 3, and 4. And we went through most of steps 1 that didn't affect too much services and didn't affect the public too much. But then we did have to get into steps 2 and 3, and we didn't do too much with number 4. But with these budget cuts, if we have potential budget cuts, they haven't happened yet, but we have to continue to think about it. So I think as mayor, I would stay on top, stay well connected with the staff, with the citizens, and see what would be the most damaging cuts and try to avoid those or to have them have the least impact. As far as opportunities, I think one of the effects that we've had from the lower budget or from the budget cuts have been the fact that the staff has had to work together more and have combined some departments so that they would be able to absorb the cuts better. So that I would just stay on top of things.
I think the first thing is the thing that I've been doing is working with the University of Illinois and other entities, talking with other leaders about the fact that an ideological rhetoric isn't helping. It's not, we get right to work, we cut all the entitlement programs, and then the state does well, end of story. It's not a math problem. And what I've been saying is, if the whole point of us is to compete with other states, if the state of Illinois is a Little League team, Champaign is the big kid with a fake birth certificate who hits about 900 and a home run every other time, and if we have these cuts, you're sending them to bat without a bat, you're sending them to field without a glove, and if you're going to do that, Mr. Governor, well then how are we supposed to compete with the great state of Indiana, other than allowing gays to eat at our restaurants, I guess, but how are we going to compete? How is that going to happen? And the fact of the matter is, if you're going to if you're going to compete with other states, then you need to tilt the balance towards where your moneymaker is, and that is Champaign right now.
I would work with our local legislators and also talk with the governor, but I think one of the things that is an opportunity is for our community as a whole to speak with one voice, to bring Champaign, Urbana, the county, the university in Parkland, and actually I would include our local nonprofits to the table together to see if we can try to put together some type of plan where we can go to Springfield together and say, this is what our community needs to be sustainable. Because frankly, in some ways, I'm most worried about our local nonprofits that have gotten, word that they're going to be slashed, and they are serving the poorest of the poor. If people cannot get funding for a child care resource and the poorest of the poor can't go to work, then we continue to then need more at the city of Champaign to help care for those people. And so together we need to find a way to work with the governor and our legislators, but not think of it in a silo of just we're going to save the city of Champaign, but how are we going to all work together?
So if I'm elected mayor on April 8th, I'm going to call the Illinois Municipal League, which is our lobbying organization for municipalities that kind of foster and encourage discussions among legislators to make sure that we're paying only our fair share. There are going to be cuts. We just need to make sure we're not paying any more than we need to. Also going to be on the phone with legislators to make sure that same thing happens. And then secondly, we are going to see some cuts, I'm sure of that. And I think this is where collaboration comes into play, because as I mentioned, I think we cooperate very well. I think we can collaborate even better. And that, we've got a lot of duplication of services between governmental entities. So for instance, with the school issue, because that's paramount, block grants to think about roads and improvements in areas the schools are being done would be one thing that I'd really love to see. And secondly, the sports fields with the schools. Why aren't we sharing those sports fields so they're given access to the public, basically 24/7 when the kids are out of school?
Thank you very much. This next question begins with Mayor Gerard. Specifically, and it can be anything, but what type of business is currently missing in Champaign? Restaurant or otherwise? Could be anything.
We have so much. In our research park, we have 145 or so businesses. There's so many things that we're not even aware of. I always talk to people. I've been here since 1968. I came to Champaign, I think the year the school districts were desegregated, if I'm honest. And when I was younger, we had a pancake house and a steak house and some fast food restaurants, but not a whole heck of a lot here. And I was talking with Muhammad Al-Hidi from World Harvest just yesterday, who had Basmati, who was one of the exotic restaurants back in the day. But just to think now that my kids grew up in a city where we could get sushi and Indian food and so forth, we have a remarkable culinary landscape, a remarkable cultural landscape. It's a reflection of the global constituency that the university has, and we're very blessed to have that. As far as businesses go, pick them. I said all along, it'd be great to have a Trader Joe's, but even better if Common Ground stepped up and we had our own homegrown Trader Joe's. So I'm really excited that 3 years ago when I talked to the folks from Common Ground, I said, I'd really love to have you downtown, and they said, no, it's really going to be Southwest Champaign. That's what the consultants are telling us. And so I'm happy by the time they got around to it that downtown Champaign caught up to what they need, and we're going to see that happening. So, I think there's a lot of seeds have been planted. There's a lot of great local businesses, and I think that just kind of make them our own, embrace them, support them, and we have quite a bit. So, I want for nothing, but if anybody does want a Dave & Buster's or something else, feel free to let us know, and we can find out why they're not here.
So one of the problems that we face is retaining and recruiting minority professionals in this community. We are not St. Louis or Chicago. We're located close enough that you can travel there, you can travel to Atlanta. And as I've talked to people, one of the things that keeps coming to the forefront is a minority entertainment venue of some type. And so that is not my forte, I suppose, to create a jazz club or something more interesting than that. But I certainly think that the city ought to be helping if there is an entrepreneur out there, and if you're sitting out there, we need you. Because I have talked to people who have basically said, you know, once you get to the married with kids stage, Champaign-Urbana is a great place because you're 5 minutes from work and you're 5 minutes from school, and gosh, we love being here. But when we're in those younger years as a professional, there just aren't a whole lot of choices for us. And I say that from people of color who have said that to me. So it would be nice to see a minority entertainment venue. I don't know who would be out there to be able to do that, but I'd love to see it, and I would love to have the city help get it here.
So I guess a couple comments on that. First of all, if it's not here, there's probably a reason for that. So it's not about us going after businesses that aren't here. It's about us listening to the people in our community, in particular in this case, the University Research Park has done a study recently that told us specifically what we need to be recruiting. We need IT big data, we need bioengineering, biomedical, and we need ag. Related businesses. So published a study, gosh, maybe it's been 2 years ago, Laura, that study's come out. The university is an economic engine. They've got a lot of talent. We need to start capitalizing on that more than we have so far.
I've been trying to think of that. I've been here for my whole life, and businesses do come and go. We, you know, like the Aunt Sonia's and Uncle John's Pancake Shop, but we do have a lot of a wide variety of restaurants, I think, and I do feel that the city does a great job in helping to provide incentives for businesses who may need to come to town, or for businesses like Hill Ford, who wanted to relocate closer to the interstate. So we provided incentives so they can move there, and then their land is being developed into a hotel, into a Wendy's, into a hardware store, and a grocery store. So I think it's a great opportunity that the city helps.
Thank you. Real quick, just off the cuff here, because I'm curious. You're all townies, true and true. So I'm wondering, of all the restaurants that have gone over the years, quickly, and without too much elaboration, which would you love to bring back, going back in your day? Mayor? That's tough. That's worth that reaction? I don't know, Cosmos? What the hell?
Undecided.
Fair enough.
Sure, Cosmos. Cosmos was great. Cosmos was great because not only was it a fantastic, it was local, what's his name, Bloom. Ed Bloom owned it, right? Ted Bloom worked there as a kid. He went to school with me. It was a great local business, and they hosted the U of I Jazz concert. It was fantastic. So on multi-levels, if we were to bring back Cosmos, what a fantastic idea that is.
I wasn't saying that we should. I was wondering what you missed. The character question.
Undecided.
Okay.
Catsinas.
Good answer. I think, was it called the Lux that had fish sandwiches on Green Street?
Lock, stock, and bagel.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I am not a townie. I don't know at what point one becomes an honorary townie, but that could be a good discussion on Chambana Mom's Facebook page, so we'll write that one down for later. But kind of going to that is, all of you grew up here, and all of you have built your lives here, but how do you identify with those in the community? And there are a significant number of them, such as myself, who didn't grow up here, who did not have the institutional memory perhaps that you have. And how can we incorporate their worldview into your own and in your role as mayor?
I did grow up here and have lived here for more than 40 years, but I did go away for college and law school. And so I understand what it's like to live in a college town that you didn't grow up in, and to actually made the choice to continue to be registered at home, but continued to help candidates where I was living in Massachusetts because I was still interested in politics. I think that making sure that we reach out to everyone who is new to the community and that we're welcoming, especially the students who may be here on a temporary basis but also may choose to make it their home long term. I had the opportunity, I lived in Massachusetts, I went to Mount Holyoke College, and then for law school, I was in Chicago, and so I had the experience of living in a bigger city. So I think that you do become an honorary townie. I think that, it happens quickly if you have children and you're part of the school and the community. It happens very fast. You can do that through church or other ways. I think that it's just a matter of making sure that we welcome people and that we aren't so busy, just talking to the other townies that we don't notice that there are new people here.
So I'm very proud to be a person who's been here for a long time. My family goes back actually 150 years. But we also have, and I was born and raised here, but we also, and my wife Ann and I have lived in Costa Rica for 10 months. We lived in Indianapolis, we lived in Cleveland, we lived in Connecticut, New York City. So for me, I welcome people both who have had the resources and have been here for ever and ever and kind of have those long family ties, as well as people that have come new, because it's exciting to me when we attract new people, especially kind of the biggest way that we attract people is through the university, and hearing their stories is what is one of the most fun things that that I really enjoy doing.
This is a really fun question for me to answer because as a teacher, and especially these last 8 years at my preschool, I've had the opportunity to teach children from the Philippines, children from Japan, children from India most recently, and to be able to share culturally with the families has been a joy to me. I always learn from others. I always, even though as a teacher I like to impart learning, but as a person I gain so much from others that it makes it exciting and fun. And as mayor, I would want to learn and listen to so many people because that's where we get our ideas from. And especially people, you don't have to be from another part of the world. You could just be from another part of the city and have a different culture or a different life experience for myself. So listening to everyone in our town is important to me, and thank you.
I often relate the same story if I'm talking to school kids or kids in college or people trying to do startup or whatever, but in 2011 I decided I was going to be mayor and everybody laughed and said, you aren't involved in partisan politics, you have no experience whatsoever, you weren't a member of the country club, you don't have the name, you cannot do it, you simply cannot do it, it can't happen, good for you, but I say to the people of Champaign, you elected me, and if I can be mayor, then the city of Champaign can do absolutely anything. If you were to choose a nobody from nowhere who wasn't working with political parties, who wasn't going to step in line and endorse the guy who'd been there for 12 years, if someone's going to step up and say, I don't even really know what I'm doing, I just think that we need to do things a little differently and shake things up. Our governor got elected by shaking up Springfield. I think I've probably shaken up Champaign just a touch bit. So I will tell people, if I can do it, you can do it, we can all do it together.
Thank you. This one is to Joe, starts with Joe. How will your political party affiliation affect the way you govern as mayor, even though we know that this is a nonpartisan council?
This is a really important issue because I'm an independent candidate, and I think that puts me in the best position to be able to bring this community together and unite people. So I've never voted straight ticket on anything. I have Democratic supporters, I have Republican supporters, I have independent supporters. I pride myself on being a person who, when I look at individuals on the ballot, I select those individuals because I think they have the credentials that are necessary to do the job at hand. And so I think the fact that I don't have a party affiliation, have not worked in party politics, I tell people if this were a partisan election, I wouldn't be running, because the partisanship is one of the things that divides us, and I'm interested in uniting this community.
My party does not define me. I look at every issue, every single issue that comes before me, and I look at it in a way that how I feel it would benefit the citizens of Champaign. I've never had anyone come to me outside of, or anywhere to ask me to vote one way or another because they are of the same party that I am or of a different party. So that's never, ever in 8 years played a part in my decisions. And if you look at my 0.25% sales tax that I increased 2 years ago, that is not along party lines, and it was done for the benefit of the citizens of Champaign, and I will stand by it.
Thank you. Actually, it's funny, I have very tepid support from the Democrats because I've made the mistake of endorsing Republicans as well as helping them out. Champaign's a very purple place. We don't have the city council. Typically, we either vote how we believe what is right, or some choose to vote for what they think is the Chamber of Commerce wants them to do and they'll get an endorsement. So you can make that choice. But as far as the politics go, I am, a liberal Democrat in favor of big government, so I thought that people should be allowed to own chickens. While conservatives said, absolutely not, I don't understand that thinking. I'm typically a free market guy, probably more so than a lot of my liberal friends would like. I think let the free market drive it. Government doesn't need to be creating family opportunities all the time or creating new businesses all the time. We need to be creating an environment where those things can happen and the free market can make them happen. And we've seen it happen here, so good on us. Councilwoman.
One of the nice things about local races is people have an opportunity at forums like this to get to know people one-on-one and to read our information and to really be informed voters. It's nice to be part of a nonpartisan race. Like Karen, I would say that my party doesn't define who I am, and frankly, one of the reasons that I wanted to step away from being on the Champaign County Board was because it, at the time, was hyper-partisan. And that was just not a great way to deal with government. Frankly, things were often party line votes, there were party line splits, and people weren't always looking at what's best for the community or best for the citizens. And I think on the city council, we do that. We're not looking down party lines. If you look at how votes go, we often have 9-0 votes because we've worked out all of the kinks throughout our study sessions and with staff, and people have an opportunity to be heard and their input gets to be part of what we eventually vote on.
Thank you. This question will start with Karen. The recent discussion about the potential use of Dodds Park for a new central high school exposed concerns about a deficit of green space in our city. How do you feel that this perceived deficit should be addressed? And as mayor, what policies would you explore or revisit to implement more green space in our neighborhoods and community?
I think green space is awesome for the city. I think that we need to preserve it as much as we can. Part of the development agreements that we have with, I know, Trails of Brittany and Trails of Abbey and the Marathon Pipeline Trail that goes through the west end of Champaign. I think that is a great example of how we can continue to preserve green space for our city. The park districts, don't mean to steal your thunder, Joe, but they really are great. I really do. I grew up around Eisner Park. It was a wonderful place to go, and Davidson Drive, I lived right on that park. So I'm a strong proponent, and as mayor, I would want to work with the park district and preserve our land as we have it with, and I am glad that, I'll just say it, I'm glad that Dodds Park is going to be preserved.
You know, I often don't understand what, it seems like a math problem to me, the number of green, the amount of green space, because for example, the city of Champaign with the 2nd Street Reach, 2nd Street Basin, with the Washington Street, if you go out and see these things, they're absolutely beautiful amenities that are parks. And the city of Champaign tried to turn these over to the Park District, but the Park District did not want them. So now the taxpayers pay redundantly for city officials or city workers to cut the grass and maintain our own parks. So we have city parks, and we have park district parks, and then of course we have the university that has the quad and a number of green space areas. And of course, we're very close to places like Monticello, where there's an enormous amount of forest and all kinds of things. So I think it's great to have green space. Having raised my children here, I feel like we romped around in the green space quite a bit. I think we have a lot. It's great to preserve it, but the city's doing stormwater projects that create gorgeous parks. We're doing that. I wish that the city taxpayers didn't have to pay to mow them, but that's the way it is, but it is green space.
So one of the things that we can do as a city is to negotiate with developers where park on acreage in the middle of somewhere in order to be green space that can be utilized and enjoyed by our community.
So we actually do count linear, we call them linear parks, paths and bikeways. We really do have a major deficit. We have 8.5 acres per 1,000 residents in Champaign. The minimum standard statewide, which is considered actually quite minimal, is 10 acres per 1,000. The neighboring community of Urbana has, I think, 16 acres per 1,000, so almost double. Bloomington, Indiana has something like 21 acres per 1,000. It's a really big issue. I work every day to negotiate with developers to try to make that become less of an issue. That's a tough issue for developers, and I understand that. One of the things where we have found an opportunity to actually make some progress is in the trails and bikeways, because that's the first thing that developers know have value. But I would also say this is something that I'm going to be interested in looking at if I'm fortunate enough to be elected mayor, and that is if we have to, and I hope we don't, because negotiation is where I'd like to see this happen, but if there's a need for a land cash donation ordinance, I think we at least have to have that on the table. That would require developers who put in new developments to actually, part of that development needs to be green space, and that's done statewide in over 100 communities statewide.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So this one starts with Don. How can the city take the lead on advancing our community to be less isolated and optimize transportation opportunities, both locally and regionally?
There again, very excited to have, I think we're 4th ranked in the country with the MTD as far as public transit, with both rider satisfaction and ridership per capita. So that really speaks volumes when you think about New York, Chicago, other places, to say that we have a mass transit system that's so heavily utilized. One of the things that was not necessarily, we didn't sign non-disclosure agreements, but it wasn't in the press, but there were representatives from China who have been involved with all of the high-speed rail over in Asia, virtually all of it, and built some of the fastest trains. And their vision for the United States is that the hub would be in Champaign for the Midwest, with the first stretch to Chicago. It's very exciting, I think, with the Chancellor's vision for the medical school and other things, that it's a very real possibility. And you start to talk about those type of things, well then you start to talk about, if we're going to be the hub, well then Rantoul is going to be where they service them. They have to clean these things and repair them and everything. All of a sudden you're talking about making us one more viable transportation hubs. Well, it would be the transportation hub in the United States where there's to get off the ground. So it's it's an exciting opportunity. But as we're building these high rises as well, you talk about the students. Right now we have a lot of students who will rent an apartment in Savoy or Bonneville or something and drive in because it's cheaper to rent an apartment there. And then, but as there's more of an urban center on campus, what we see is that students will be spending more for housing and leaving their cars at home and using public transportation, which is sustainable, it's smart, and it's a better value for them, and it clears up our roads. So, there's a lot of opportunities, and I think that there's a vision, and that the leadership of the university, the cities, this is something very much in our minds. It's something that's in progress. So not so much a vision, but a view of what's actually going on.
Thank you. Councilwoman.
I'm going to start locally, which is complete streets ordinance that we passed at the city. So walking and biking paths as part of redoing our major road construction. Also neighborhood commercial, which I have supported. So areas like this where people can live in neighborhoods and then be able to walk. It would be great to have grocery stores there as well, and other things available. On a larger level, larger scale level, I agree with the mayor that we have to be involved in high-speed rail. That is a game changer for Champaign-Urbana. We can either become the community where people live and they can work in Chicago, or vice versa. We can share with professors back and forth, especially with respect to medical innovation. We can have people going back and forth. And frankly, we have to support Willard, because until we have high-speed rail, we need to make sure that people can get in and out of our community, and we need to make sure that we've got adequate emplanements, I believe is what they call it, at Willard, so that we can make that happen.
So plane embarkations and increasing that to the extent we can is important. We have a limited ability to do that, but we need to continue to try. High-speed rail is big. Certainly I'm going to participate with Champaign First and encourage that through our legislatures at the national level. But I really want to talk about the bikes and trails, because when we survey the public, and that's what we do at the Park District to find out how to spend your tax money, we've done it twice in the last 12 years. We do a statistically valid survey, get back 800, 900 randomly selected individuals' responses. They tell us the same thing every time. Trails, walking and biking trails is the #1 priority for people in our community from a Parks and Recs standpoint. And so that's going to be a real priority. If you've noticed, that's why we did Hustle Park, that's why we did Morrison Park, that's why we did Porter Park and all these others with the trails. That needs to become more, and we have a trails plan that we cooperated with the city on, but now I think we need more leadership at the city to really get the trails in between the parks and between schools, etc.
I think too, with the Uber discussions that we had this week in our study session, that's going to be a new kind of transportation that's coming, even though we tabled that until we get our taxi discussion going, our taxi study session later on this year. But it all goes together in making our city more vibrant, keeping up with the future of transportation in our city. And I just think there are so many ways that, we can become more like a big city, more ways that we can take advantage of those new kinds of transportation. But yet I have to agree that Champaign County First and discussions with our federal legislators and our leaders in Washington, D.C. concerning high-speed rail and new Amtrak lines, we have to keep those avenues open so that we can get the best for our city where we need it.
Thank you. Well, this question goes to Deb. First, you get to choose one song to sing karaoke to. What's your choice and why?
Do I have 2 minutes
2
to
minutes.
think about it?
Strict 2 minutes. Very strict.
Boy.
Well, first of all, I have no singing ability, so Mayor's going to win on that one. The first song that popped into my head was I Am Woman, Hear Me Roar by Helen Reddy, which I think was an anthem in the 1970s when I was a kid, and I actually have that album. And I used to play it over and over on my little orange record player with the plastic parts. So these guys are my age, they remember. So I guess why would be because that's the first song that came to my head, and I think that having strong professional women who can be role models out there is really important, and I've got 2 girls that I want to know that they can do anything. Thanks.
That's a really good answer, Deb. So my answer is anything by the Doobie Brothers in honor of my friend Seth. Was it Hit the Streets? I think is the one that comes to mind.
That's anything but one song. Come on, one song.
Isn't it Hit the Streets, I think? That's my song.
I sing every day with my preschoolers, and I've been told in the past to hum. So karaoke and I don't go together, but if you've attended any of our preschool programs, you've heard me sing. But the first one that came to mind is This Little Light of Mine, because that somebody sang that the other day, so that was just in my head. Probably at church it was. And then, but I'll go along with Aretha Franklin and R.E.S.P.E.C.T. and get down a little bit with some soul music.
I was going to say, I Am Woman, Hear Me, Lord. Or It's Raining Men. And just specifically because I think in this climate right now, I'm very proud that I was the 5th mayor in the state of Illinois, the first mayor downstate, a year ahead of the mayor from Urbana. Her name's escaping me. Anyway, who signed on as a mayor for marriage equality. I've always been very big on human rights. I think it's not only good for our community, but good for business. That being said, maybe more than this, because Bill Murray really nailed that in that one movie. So,
Thank you for indulging us. So this one goes to Joe first. Do you believe that transgender people should have the right to choose which bathrooms they use?
It's easy, absolutely.
I don't have a problem with that either.
Repeat the question, please.
Do you believe that transgender people should have the right to choose which bathroom they use?
There's so many, I work on campus and I've gotten so used to the family bathrooms, which are often cleaner. So I use those. But yeah, I think so. I think that's, I think generally we live in a society where, unless you're at Wrigley Field and you're all lined up at a trough or something, it's, yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Thank you. This one goes. This one goes. Yeah, absolutely.
This is a good one. What do you like about each other?
Okay, that is fun. Do you have a particular order? But I'll start with Don. I appreciate his sense of humor. I believe that even though sometimes the humor may be inappropriate at some areas, but I do believe he has a good sense of humor, and I can appreciate that. Deb, I've known for many years. I took care of her oldest daughter at our daycare center, so I've known her for, 13 years now, and I've liked her as a friend. I appreciate her knowledge and the way that she's raising her children. And Joe, I'm sorry I don't know you quite as long, but I appreciate your smile and the way that you greet people.
That's good. That was nice.
Are we going person by person? Well, I appreciate that Deb has been a huge proponent of the UC2B project. I think that was a controversial one for somebody. At that time, there was a lot of slandering of Obama for stimulus projects and wasting taxpayer dollars. So for her to go against her ideology and stand up for that, and to, we've been to Chattanooga together. We've been to New York City. She's put the time in, and I think that it's very well spent. I have a great deal of respect for her. As far as Karen goes as well, Karen's been on the council for quite some time, and she's always had a unique voice and spoken for the community. She's very passionate. She loves the city, and while we don't always agree on everything, certainly she speaks her mind and has been a strong advocate. As far as Joe goes, Joe, I hardly know you, Joe. I appreciate that Joe has been a good sport along this whole way. It hasn't been, it's not easy to run for office. It's not easy to be an elected official. So I appreciate that there are those who are willing to step up and serve.
First of all, thank you for this question. I think it's my favorite that we've gotten. With respect to Mayor Gerard, I would say that one of the things that I really respect about him is he is a community cheerleader. And he is just out there all the time talking about how great Champaign is, and I really love that. And I think that is something that we all can learn from. With respect to Joe, perhaps he's the one that I've known the longest. We grew up in the same neighborhood and I've known him a long time. I like that he is sincere and polite and friendly. And I like that even though we've come through this last year together, that we still are able to smile and talk and respect each other. And we sat down together before it even started, and we both knew we were going to run, and I appreciated his honesty in telling me that, and so I'm just glad to be up here with him. With respect to Karen, we've actually known each other longer than 13 years because I served on the county board long before my daughter was ever born, and Karen was a department head at the county. And so we have worked together as colleagues, and we have served together on the Champaign City Council. And one of the things that I like most about Karen is that through all of this we have remained friends. And we still pick up the phone and call each other about council issues, and we still work together to get things done on council. And we sometimes just call each other to laugh because, oh my gosh, the campaign is kind of a crazy train to be on sometimes. And so, again, I'm just really glad to have her as part of all of this.
This really is a great question. Everybody up here, the three people I have the privilege of sitting up here with, they're very good people and they're very committed. Don is at almost everything. He's there in the morning, he's there at night, he's there in the middle of the day, and I don't know if people really appreciate how much effort that takes. Just through the campaign and through my Park District experience, I've seen that, and Don really gets that done, and I appreciate that hard work, Don. Deb, we have known each other for a very long time. This is a wonderful, wonderful person. I care a great deal about Deb. She's one of the most committed public servants I've ever had the privilege of knowing. Karen, one of the things I really appreciate about you is, first of all, your love of children, and that comes across very clearly, and also just the amount of time and effort you take to thank staff at city council meetings, because that ultimately is what really makes we're very blessed to have the staffs at both the Park District and the city, and you really go out of your way to help them know that. I think that makes a big difference.
That was really sweet, guys. That was really nice. I appreciate that.
Say goodbye now.
Yeah, that was good. I like the love fest up there. This is our final question. It starts with Mayor Gerard. You absolutely despise, let me rephrase it. This is your last mayoral debate, so what really differentiates you? Think about that for a second. I think there's a lot of undecided people in this community because, as you just got done discussing, there's a lot of qualities here, all the candidates. And that makes it tough for people because it is a nonpartisan election. There's a lot of blurred lines when it comes to traditional partisan issues. So here's this last mayoral debate moment to discuss, with respect, if you choose, what truly differentiates you and what makes people want to give you the vote next Tuesday, April 2nd. Yes, so we totally finished my sentence for the first time with that. I feel good about it. Everyone gets 2 minutes. Thank you. Please proceed.
In 2011, we were facing browning out a fire company, had 6 positions at the police department unfilled, no money. We're going to close the front desk at the police station, no money for roads, no money for stormwater, no money for the library whatsoever. And we had a 12-year incumbent who was coming promising that there would be no more taxes and he would stand up for that. And no one was stepping up to run against him. I knew that it would be a Herculean task. I knew that it was going to be very difficult because I had no political background, but I took that on because I just thought it was egregiously irresponsible for us in the 21st century as the city of Champaign to lay down like that coming out of the recession. We passed some very difficult votes. I voted in favor of the quarter-cent sales tax. That was police, fire, public works, library, and paying ahead on our pensions. I voted in favor of the 5. I voted in favor of the 4-cent gas tax, which is why all you folks can get to the YMCA or to your homes in Southwest Champaign on that beautiful multimodal bridge, which would have looked exactly like the bridge on Kirby. That would have been 2 lanes and the same. That's what IDOT was going to give us, but that had we not passed that gas tax, we would have not had the revenue to put up for that and to get the grant for that. So I'm proud of those things. Coming around this time, I think there's a lot of things going on, and I'm very proud to have supported See You at Home to raise money for the homeless. I'm very proud to have supported, worked closely with Robert Easter, Chancellor Wise, and now even I have a good relationship with Tim Killeen, even though he doesn't have a signed contract yet. Come on, Governor, sign that. But you know, the University of Illinois is going to be integral in the state of Illinois, period, with the vision that they have. And I'm proud to have been, you know, part of laying the groundwork for that. I'm proud to have gone to Washington, D.C. 5 times. I'm proud that we worked with MTD and Champaign County First to bring a $17 million transportation grant from the federal government when we haven't had transportation dollars in Champaign County since I think Abraham Lincoln was the president. So it's a good thing. It's something I'm very proud of. I think that it was very difficult to run 4 years ago. It was easy for me to run this year. I hope that you know, people look back and say, I'm a little bit better off than I was 4 years ago. I feel good about living in Champaign. Let's keep it going.
Thank you.
So I have governmental experience that includes being a Champaign County board member. And so I have contacts relating to that that I think help me and would inform my experience as mayor. I don't see things in the silo of just the city of Champaign, but as a broader community that includes the county. I believe that I have the leadership skills to work with other council members and to gather the votes that are necessary to get things done. I have experience as an attorney and a small business person. I understand what it's like to have to keep the lights on and pay your staff, especially during the down economy when we all were going through it, not only at a city level, but at a local business level. I believe that my experience as an attorney also informs my ability to work as a negotiator and collaborator. I understand how to bring 2 sides together and try to work toward the middle, which probably means both sides are unhappy, but you have to get things done and move forward. I believe one of my strengths is that I am able to put aside votes where if I don't win on a vote or somebody is on the opposite side of me, I work very hard to remember that they may be the vote the next time around, or they may be the person that we collaborate with for a new project. And so that informs my decision. The other thing that distinguishes me, since this is in part a Chambana Moms Forum, is that I have a family, a younger family, and I have a 13-year-old and an 8-year-old. And although that doesn't mean that I am necessarily qualified to be a mayor because I have children, it informs how I make my decisions. I wake up and I know that on April 8th, I'm taking them to school and I'm going on to work and I'm going to continue to live in this community. And so I hope that I've conducted myself in a way in this campaign that is reflective of the way that I'll conduct myself as mayor if I am elected, and I will always be hearing their voices in the back of my head as I move forward, because I want this to be a community they want to continue to live in when they grow up.
Thank you so much.
So I think there's 3 things that really distinguish me from the other folks up here. Leadership. My training is an economist, a PhD in economic development, and thirdly, that I'm an independent candidate. So with regards to leadership, to me, I listen, learn, and then I lead. So as an example of that, the way that we listen to the Park District is we survey the public. I mentioned this before, 2 times separately, you know, get back 800, 900 independent, you know, contributions from different community members, and then they told us what they wanted. They told us they wanted trails, open space, Virginia Theater renovated, and a rec center. And over the past 12 years, it's exactly what I've focused on delivering. We just finished the rec center this past summer. So that's about leadership. I'm a consensus builder, and I'm a very good listener. With regards to training, you know, one of the things that we really need in this community is economic development and jobs. ultimately, all these issues that we've been talking about are a whole lot easier to solve if we have that kind of prosperity. And I've got the training to actually be able to make progress on that. And then finally, this is nonpartisan. It needs to stay nonpartisan, and I'm an independent candidate, so I think I'm best able to actually bring our community together and unite us around these issues so that I don't have those partisan labels that I need to worry about that might alienate some people.
I think as a teacher, I have always tried to build the trust of the public that I'm working with. I think that regardless of whether I've been in public schools or whether I've been in a small private school or whether I've been in the county in the daycare center, it's imperative to have trust and integrity in what you are doing, because that's what people, your reputation is all that you have, and it can only take a second to leave you. So as mayor, I would bring forward that trust. I would bring forward my reputation as a teacher all these years. One thing that does distinguish me is I'm retiring, and after 42 years of teaching, and I think that will allow me to, not that it's a full-time job, but it will allow me to be able to be available to the public morning, afternoon, evening, weekends, whatever it takes. I think as a councilwoman, I've already been doing so many of those activities, and it will just continue to be the same, and add mayor responsibilities onto that, and I'm more than willing to take that on. I think too, one of my mottos is building trust, building relationships, and building Champaign. And that is exactly what I would do in that order. I feel that as a teacher, I look at my classrooms and I see the potentials, and John Wooden, someone shared John Wooden's favorite poem with me, "This Is Why I Teach," written by a woman in 1947. And it's a teacher that saw in her classroom, she saw the future farmer, she saw the future minister, she saw the future ball player, she saw the future businessman. And you just have to always look at the possibilities of everyone you speak to and not judge them. Know that they have ideas that are worthy to be listened to as well. And as mayor, I would listen to everyone, regardless of their appearance, and hope that on April 7th I will have your vote. Thank you.
Taking the microphone away from Seth. Thank you very much to the 4 candidates. I think some of you might stick around and ask some individual questions if you wish. We appreciate everyone who came out to share this event with us today. We have been, I think both Smile Politely and Chambana Moms have been live tweeting the event, and we also have some recordings of it, so for people who weren't able to attend, we will be able to share that way as well. So again, thank you very much for being a part of this afternoon, and we have a big choice in Champaign, and thankfully it looks like we have a good choice this election on April 7th. So we just encourage that people vote. So there are still early opportunities to vote too, so if you can't make it on April 7th, make sure you pursue that as well. So thanks again to everyone for coming out. Thanks to the candidates, and we'll see you down the road.